Good afternoon, everyone. Hope we enjoyed Trailhead DX so far. And today we're going to talk about custom metadata types. And how many of you never heard about custom metadata types? Just a few people? No, quite few. And how many of you heard about it but never used it up to today? Wow. Good job. That's the right session for you. So, my name is Vladimir. I'm a senior product manager here at Salesforce. I've been with Salesforce for about 3 years. I started as an engineer, and then I made the transition to product management. And as you might already guessed, I'm a product manager for the teams that introduce custom metadata types. And that's exactly why I'm here today speaking. But before we move any further, I would like to remind everyone about forward-looking statement. Have you seen this one already? No? If you haven't seen this one already, let me know after how you manage that. And since we have 38 minutes, I'm just going to read it up loud. Just a small reminder, do not make any purchasing decisions based on whatever I'm going to tell you. Base it only on features that are available, not on my charisma. With this being laid out, let's just start. So today's agenda, what I want to talk about is, I want to give you a brief introduction to custom metadata types. To those of you who never heard about it, this part of the session would be specifically interesting. Then I want to talk about why custom metadata types, and that's probably for those of you who heard about it but never used. So I lay out all the benefits of using custom metadata types, specifically in compare with custom settings and custom objects. And at the last, I want to talk about some cool features we have on custom metadata types, custom metadata type relationships. This is very specific, and I think that would be mostly interesting to those of you who are already using custom metadata types, or maybe just start using, and you will be able to learn something new and maybe apply it once you come back from Trailhead DX. So, introduction to custom metadata types. Folks, like for those of you who never heard about it, I have news for you. It's been GA'd for almost 2 years. So custom metadata types went GA in summer 15, so actually exactly 2 years ago. And from the beginning, we got a tremendous response from Twitter, and there's some tweets that I personally like. Take development on the platform to a whole new level. Biggest platform feature since Chatter. Godlike developer superpowers. Those are real, I didn't fake them. And my favorite, the holy freaking grail. But we do not measure success of the feature based on tweets. Otherwise, I might be already promoted to vice president. We have some numbers. Over 2 years, we grew our adoption rate, and now we have over 170 million queries a day against custom metadata types you and other ISV and developers created. And why? Why are they so popular? This is a slide that kind of lays out all the benefits. It helps you with installations, with upgrades, with manageability. And this is, by the way, the worst slide I ever made in my life. It has 10 bullet points. And I don't expect you to read it. I just want you to be, wow. Tell us about it. And I just noticed that if I step too far, my clicker doesn't work. So, wow, what is custom metadata type? And I remember I was asking the same question myself, and I just started as a product manager because this was a new team for me, and I, like you, didn't know about it. So, and I was sitting with my boss, who was a regional manager, and he's actually in the audience right over there. And he was like, the one thing you need to know is that the records of a custom metadata types are metadata, not data. And in my head, I was like, I have no clue. I have no clue what it means. But so far, this is the most important slide. If somehow I need to stop right now, I wanted you just to remember this. And I'll be coming back to this slide a lot during the presentation, and it will become clear. And to explain it, I just want to start with a simple question. What types of objects we have in Salesforce? Anyone wants to answer? No? Custom and standard, yes. That's the most common answer I hear, and this is wrong. I mean, it's not wrong, it's technically right, but not from the perspective of custom metadata type. Today, I want us to think about objects as from perspective of data objects, or those that are used for your business, to run your business, to store the information that's important to your sales, marketing teams, and so far. And the metadata types, or metadata objects. Those are important to specify how your app is operating, how is your business functioning, to describe the rules, not the business. And if we even look further into this diagram or table, we can divide them between standard and custom, and data objects and metadata types. So for standard data objects, we have accounts, leads, opportunities, all those objects that comes for free when you, not exactly for free. All those objects you get once you start with Salesforce. And then you have custom objects that you create to feed the needs of your business, like warranties, invoices, projects, or whatever your business is doing that's not there in our CRM system once you sign up a new org. And then we have metadata types, or metadata objects. And you might not know about it, but you have standard metadata types today. Validation rules is a good example. They do not store the information about your business, but they do store information about how your users interact with your app. Let's say you don't want to allow more than 5 digits in zip code. This has nothing to do with business data. It's about how how the app is operating, how your org is functioning. And now we have custom metadata types. And custom metadata types, think about them, everything you need to customize for metadata, like stock point rules, warranty settings, international VAT rules, all those kind of things that make sense to supply to your business, but not to store the business data. And you might be asking, like, well, I've been doing it with custom settings and custom objects. Why the heck do you guys introduce a new type of objects? Like, don't we have enough of them? Like, we just released platform events, I heard. It's like, what's the point of having all those underscore, EEC, MDT? Well, everyone who works with custom settings and custom objects probably knows that every time you're trying to package those, that's where you come into the challenges, because all you can package is, in fact, is definition of that object, the headline. You cannot package any records, and every time you need to deploy your custom object or custom settings across multiple environments, you have that manual process or Apex or whatever to fill those records, to set up those configuration. Well, but the records of a custom metadata types are metadata, not data. First reference to that slide. And that means that you can package the records of custom metadata types together with a definition of your metadata type. So no longer you need to do any manual steps to import your data or to do Apex or ask your admin to go and to set up and create those records for you, for your app to be able to function. And we talk about, this feature was developed originally as an ask from ISVs. And ISVs deal, what do they deal with? They deal with sometimes 10,000, 100,000 of orgs where they need to deploy it. Some of them we've seen, they have hundreds of thousand lines of Apex code just to do a post-deployment step to populate those records. They deal with hundreds of validation rules, some mappings, and so on. And it's a big problem for them just to support the two-step deployment, amount of resources they spend, amount of resources they spend to deployment, amount of resources they spend on post-deployment support. All that is not a problem anymore with custom metadata types. And you might think, like, well, I'm not an ISV. Why would I care? So if your org is big enough, you probably have some structure like this, where you have some set of production environments, some development environments when you actually create new cool stuff. You need to do integration testing, so you need to push changes from your developer environments into integration testing environment, into user acceptance testing environment, into staging, into production, and the production support, and so on. Every time you do that, you still have the second step to do, to fill those records. And it doesn't matter if you do it through Apex, manually through CSV files, or completely manually through 100-bullet instructions. It's still a work you need to do. So with custom metadata types, this is completely eliminated. So you as a developer would benefit. And most importantly, your admins would benefit from it. As you developer, you might not care that much. Like, well, I've done my work. Now let admins to figure out how to deploy that everywhere. And in fact, like a couple weeks ago, I had that interesting talk with Cheryl Feldman. You might know her as a lady from a sign-in page on Salesforce. She's like, the best thing I built on Salesforce is my career. It's her. I should have put it on slide, but I figured out everyone would know if you ever sign in. So she's an admin. She's not a developer. And she told me, Vladimir, you know, when I discovered custom metadata types, it was like mind-blowing because this makes my life so much easier as an admin. And all my developers now forced to use custom metadata types because I don't want to deal with that nightmare again. And just because you can package your records, it means that you can use change sets, you can use IDs, you can use Salesforce DX, you can use source control, continuous integration, all those benefits now available for you. So you have more robust environment, no more testing in production kind of development style. So, but why custom metadata types? If you're not sold by now on the fact that custom metadata types, records of custom metadata types are packageable, well, I have some more benefits for you. And this is what I used to call custom metadata types 2.0 because they were GA 2 years ago. We released a lot of cool new features as well. And this is a side-by-side comparison between list custom settings, custom objects, and custom metadata types. So, and I'm going to just briefly walk through all of them. So first of all, custom metadata types provide you unlimited queries, same as custom settings. Only custom metadata types allow you to retrieve, deploy, and package records of custom metadata types. So that's something we already covered. In addition to that, custom metadata types have way more robust way to set up protection on your object, on a field level, and in addition to that, on a record level. Because records are also metadata, you can set up a manageability of a single record. Because records of custom metadata types are metadata, you can set up audit trail. So every time there's a change happening in a record, it will be reflected in an audit trail. So if you get a call to support from one of your customers saying like, well, your app stopped working, before you have to figure out, did they make any changes, what happened? Now we can go and look into audit trail and see, well, on that date, admin A changed that record, and that's why it's not working, because he deleted that security token that is required to be there. Custom metadata types provide you a set of fields that are not available on custom settings. Those fields might include long text areas, they went GA recently, picklists, and relationships. And relationships are way more powerful than those that are on a custom objects, and we're going to cover that in the third part of our talk. And I'm happy to announce that with Summer 17, we got a native Apex support for custom metadata types. So now you can create and modify your records and fields for custom metadata types from Apex. And right after this session, there is another session in exact same room at 5 o'clock that would cover that. And I invite everyone to stay and learn about it because this is super cool. This is how you can manipulate custom metadata types and page layouts from Apex. So let's talk about the field editability. As I said, custom metadata types provide you more robust way to control how and who can access data, metadata inside your custom metadata types records. So you have three options. When you create a field on custom metadata types, you can set up as it locked, which means the value inside that field would never be able to be changed. You can set up as upgradable, which means you can issue an upgrade package which can change that value. And you can leave it as subscriber editable, which means that the value in that field can be changed by your subscriber. And this is getting even more interesting if we look into broader picture. Broader picture. As I said, you can also control a manageability of records. So here I have like a bunch of fields. Some of them are subscriber editable, some of them upgradable. So first of all, you have unmanaged records. So your subscriber can go and create additional records that are only controlled by subscriber. Then you have protected records, those only controlled by upgrade packages. And most interesting case is a public managed records. And I'll give you a use case. Let's say you have an app that interacts with two different APIs. One API is on the side of the customer, so customer controls that. And one API is on your side. Both APIs might require some sort of security token. So in case of your API, you control the security token, so you can include it into your package and make it upgradable. So subscriber cannot change it because you don't want to change your security token. But subscriber controls the security token on his or her side, and that's why that field is subscriber editable. So every time they need to change that security token, they can just go to setup and make the change without you even knowing about it, because that's a side controlled by them. So those are just some of the benefits of custom metadata types I wanted to cover in the beginning. And I want to show you a demo before we move forward into custom metadata type relationships. And let's see if it will work. We're live here. So I spin up a couple orgs right now. I have my developer org and the subscriber. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a custom metadata type and deploy it. So in a use case I have is my company manage invoices. And I know that a particular invoice goes to a particular state, and I have a price before tax. So I want to use custom metadata types to calculate the final price, or price after tax. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to create a custom metadata type that would store information about particular state tax rates. So all I need to do in setup, I'll go to custom metadata types. I click new custom metadata types. I'm going to name it state sales tax. And I'm going to save it. So now what you might notice here is that button, Manage State Sales Taxes. It would allow me to create records of this custom metadata type. So I'm going to create a couple. Well, of course, I need to add a field before that. So let me go back and create a field. Same way as on a custom object or custom settings, I go and create a field. I want to make it a number. And I call it a tax rate. And I don't need, I think, 8 digits for taxes, but maybe it's California. And I want to make it, I want to allow users to modify it. So if subscriber has that package installed and California state changed the taxes, then subscriber can go and modify it fast, raises, and depending on me to release an upgrade. So I'm selecting that option. And I'll require that field to be populated every time you create a record. So now we can go back to manage state sales taxes, and I can put a label as a California. I use the CA, and I don't know, I just Google some rates. I think it's average rate because it's per county, but we make it simple. And let's clone it and create one for Idaho. And Idaho rate is way smaller. Save. So now I have those two records here. I can see that I've created them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a visual force page that will display the price after tax. So first, I'm going to go and create my Apex controller. And I have my code over here. So what it does, it pretty much do a SOQL query to the custom metadata type, retrieve the information, match it with the state information on your record, and calculate the state tax. And what you might note is that the prefix for custom metadata types is __MDT. So they have their own prefix. So I'm going to just copy and paste it here. And just let's save it. Okay, and now what I want to do is create a visual force page. And I have my visual force page ready here as well. It uses that class as a controller and displays information about where the invoice is going, what's the original price, and what is the price after tax. So let's give it the invoice. Save. And let's just preview it. List has no, but now it was available for Latin. It might be something that I missed from my, Yeah, that probably I missed something. Hold on. No. Let me double check that class again. That's how you know that we're live. Let's see here. I'm querying my state cells tax underscore MDT, and I have a tax rate. And let me double check that I called it state, which is underscore C here. So what is that? No, I did create metadata records. So that's a little bit embarrassing, especially knowing that my boss is here. I don't want to waste time on creating the Visualforce page, but I assume if you find the problem, you will be able to see Visualforce page that would show you the right information. The point here is that now I can go into packages and create a new package. Call it Invoice Manager. And I want to make it managed. Save it. And now when I add the metadata into that package, I should be able to find, first of all, custom metadata type and add a custom metadata type to the package. But as I said, because records are metadata, I'm able to add those records as well. So under the state cells taxes, I should see all the records I've created. So I can select what records I want to add. So let's add them to the package. And let's just upload that package. Call it Summer 2017. And while the package is uploading, does anyone know why hairstylists are never late? Hairstylists are never late. Because they know all the shortcuts. And I don't have another joke for installing the package, but. So anyway, I have the package uploaded. I'm switching back to my subscriber org, so I'm going to install that package. And I'm going to install it for all users. And actually, that's the point where I'm supposed to make that joke, because that takes much more time than uploading it. So it looks like it's complete. Let's go to setup and see what we've got. So I want to see custom metadata type. We got the custom metadata type deployed, and we got all the records deployed. Now let's say, in my case, California State changed the tax. So now I can go and modify it because it's subscriber editable. And what is more important, I can go and add additional records. Let's say my original package only provided tax rate for California and Idaho, and I want to add Arizona. So I'm going to add Arizona here, and I don't know, 7. So now if I had that Visualforce page with me, and I had those records for Arizona, I would be able to see the price after tax. But we all can imagine that it happened. So with that, I would like to go back to presentation and cover one more great feature that we GA'd as part of a winter 17. So it's also been GA'd for a couple releases now. And I'm talking about custom metadata type relationships. So as for today, custom metadata type support 3 types of relationships. It's a relationship to another custom metadata type. It's a relationship to entity definition, and it's a relation to field definition. And when you look at the second two, you might be asking, what does it mean? So if you remember one of my first slides, the records of custom metadata types are metadata, not data. So they cannot be related to a data record. They're related to the definition of object or the definition of a field. So how can we use that? So let's look at the first example. It's a pretty simple example here for 2 custom metadata types. So, and I'm elaborating on the example I already gave around state taxes. So now I'm making it a little bit more complex and close to reality. So I have one metadata type to store information about sales taxes per city or per county. So I know that San Francisco has a 2.5% state sales tax. And I know that San Francisco County is located in California, which means that additional, 6% tax applies as a part of California sales tax. So now I can use in my app and roll it up to calculate the final 8.5% tax. And I know that Portland, for instance, does not have sales tax. And it's in Oregon, which also does not have sales tax, so the final sales tax will be 0. But that's one of the examples that you can think about when we're talking about custom metadata type to custom metadata type relationship. So the second example is between custom metadata type and entity definition. So one example I brought here is like, let's say your company has some standard response time or standard review time for a new record when it's got created for account, lead, or your custom object invoice. So every time one of those records is created, someone from a management should go and review that. And you can set up some app around it using custom metadata types and say, hey, when account is created, you have 48 hours. When invoice is created, which is custom object, you have 12 hours. And you can use those objects to actually compare the types of the objects. So you can make a relationship to entity definition. So none of those records relate to particular account or particular invoice. They relate to the object as a definition. And with Winter 17, we also released a field definition relationship. And let's look at this example because it explains the whole picture. So let's say every time you create one of those records, you want to set up a default value for one of your picklists there that explains what a referral, where that referral came from. So for account, you know that you need to go to account object and set up account source field and put a value web there. And for your referral custom object, you know that the default value should be internal, and you know that the object name is referral _ C, and the field name is a source _ C. So you can make a reference to a particular field on that account. And when you write some Apex code, you can actually retrieve it and put the values over there. And back before Winter 17, the way to kind of overcome this limit was to use a text field, but then you don't have any way to control if you provide the right name of the object, if that object exists in the org. So there was all kinds of challenges. So with native support for relationship, it's no longer a problem. And as I mentioned, where my slide went. As I mentioned, it's all available in SOQL, so you can write a simple SOQL queries and retrieve that information. So, and with that, I would like to share some resources here. And first of all, I want to remind you that metadata API in Apex session starts in about 30 minutes. And we have Trailhead module that I invite everyone to check out. It covers custom metadata types, most of the features that we have up to date. It's a really nice Trailhead module. I also have a couple blog posts to mention, and I invite everyone to Success Community. We have a custom metadata type Success Community where members of the team actively participate in, so you can ask questions, and usually it's get answered pretty fast. And please follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. And with that, let's move to questions and answers. Yes?
So at times we store like private keys, username, password in custom settings. So is there any or custom metadata types going forward now? Is there any way we can encrypt few fields?
Encryption is currently not supported on custom metadata types, but because you can hide that object, the subscriber would not see it. So it's not an encryption exactly, just a way to hide it. So the same way as the custom settings.
And can we implement hierarchy in custom settings?
So that's something that where a forward-looking statement would apply. The next feature we're working on is a support for self-lookups on custom metadata types. So we can have one custom metadata type record reference another custom metadata type of the same type. Sorry, yeah.
We usually use custom settings to define endpoints. In different environments hit different endpoints. Is there a way or is there a suggestion for maybe how we can automate that process so we don't have to change configurations in the environment?
Well, you can exactly store the same stuff inside the custom metadata types. And if are you asking about how to convert existing ones?
No, so say we go from a development test to production.
Yeah.
Each one of those three environments will hit separate endpoints.
So you probably can use the org ID there inside custom metadata types and check in your code which org ID you're currently in and put an endpoint. We can talk about this a little bit more complicated. We can chat after the session. Sorry, yes?
For ISV App packages, have you run into any issues upgrading their existing objects?
I forgot to mention, but like 8 out of 10 top ISVs already switched to custom metadata types, at least partially. So the process of switching is pretty straightforward. And a lot of them are waiting on support in Apex, which is already there here in the summer. So it's a pretty straightforward process. There's a blog post describing how to do that. So people are already doing it. So there's no like big blockers for that. Yes.
So what if you install a custom metadata package into a target board, the subscriber changes the values, and you would have to reinstall that package? Would it somehow override these values?
No. Yeah. So if you have a field that's subscriber editable, this value would remain even after package upgrade. That's the whole point of having subscriber editable field versus package upgradable field. Yes?
One of the features of custom settings is the ability to use those hierarchy custom settings
Yes.
and formula fields and validation. Is that on the roadmap?
So the question was about hierarchical custom settings. So hierarchical custom settings depends on user profile. So that's data. That's one part of custom settings that is not supported in custom metadata types. As far as for formulas and validation rules, that's another thing on our closest roadmap in a couple next releases is to provide custom metadata types as a global reference inside your formulas. Sorry, I need to check this side too.
Native Apex CRUD operations, you said that we can create these records using Apex and like an API.
Yes. Yes, and session is just starting in about a few minutes. Yes?
One thing that we use the custom settings for is, one example is having some placeholder text be in a spot in an application before the user goes in and types away. And we want to have our business users be able to edit that, but the problem is that the permissions that they need in order to edit custom settings aren't very permissive, and we don't want them to be able to do that. What kind of permissivity do we need to give users in order to let them edit?
Well, is it still if you want to edit custom metadata type records directly from a setup, they will still have the same level of permission as a customized org, so admin permission. But I think with epics and metadata, you should be able to write some kind of placeholder to overcome that.
Okay.
If you have a custom page for that.
All right.
Yeah. So that might solve that problem actually. Yes.
Since these are metadata, custom metadata data is actually metadata. When I edit it, would it trigger a deployment activity which logs down some of the user activity?
Let's chat after that. I don't know answer on top of my head, but we have some engineers in this room. They probably would be able to answer. Yes. Not yet. Yes, it's not yet. Yes.
In your demo, you deployed it using a managed package. Is that the only way to do it?
No, you can use in unmanaged packages, change sets, and managed packages. So all 3 ways to package data is available. I use a managed package as a way to set up a different permissions on fields, which didn't work exactly right how I expected, but yeah, yes.
I can see writing some code where it depends on custom metadata to have the correct values in it. And in Apex, text could be written to simulate an incorrectly set up metadata record. Is that where updating with Apex could be used?
Probably. You also can, what I've seen with ISV is with each package, they release some test data. So they have an extra checkbox on that record saying it's a test data. So they use that test data inside their Apex tests. And we have something on the roadmap for better support in testing. It's not out yet, and I don't know. I cannot really commit to when it would be available. But as for now, they just use a checkbox field to mark specific cases of custom metadata types as test data. Yeah. Yes. Everybody. I believe they're not environment specific because they're metadata. So. Yeah. No, I believe it wouldn't be overwritten with sandbox refresh.
If you change it in a sandbox, so it's a
Oh.
classic use case, right? And I think you answered it sort of earlier, but yeah. So if I want to store some endpoint URL, of course, probably username, credentials, but let's say we don't. If I want to set that to something different in my sandbox, well, as soon as I refresh my sandbox, it has now my production value.
Yes. Yeah.
This next session, right? In your post sandbox.
Probably, yeah. Probably Apex would be a solution. Or maybe you want to store the both of them and just based on the environment, pick one of them. That's one of the options, right? If you can check if that's a sandbox or if that's a production environment, then you have two endpoints, so you don't need to choose between, well, you don't need to update the one, you choose between two of them. Yeah, you have both of them in your custom metadata type records, yeah. Any more questions? Sorry, yes?
Any plans to change the way that the memory limit is done for metadata? There's a 10 meg limit is for all, but actually we've got lots of licenses in there. You may want to be license-based in terms of memory.
It's also something on our roadmap. There's no right now commitment to increase those limits, but we're aware of that. And it probably in the future we'll try to address the limits and increase them. Yes. We can chat about it too after. Any more? Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you.